Okay. So the first question he asked is, why was unschooling chosen for your family?
Um,
Well, I guess we should start with introductions first.
sure, I
But
don't know.
it's probably better.
Fair enough. I'm Angelique Guillen.
Okay.
This is Tara, and Nora is outside.
Okay. Um, she's let us come to her house to interview her. So,
It's stuff.
why was unschooling chosen for your family?
Um, well, I think that it was that I didn't like the choices that I was seeing in terms of established schools, whether they were the public schools or let me see how much I'm showing. The public schools or private Montessori, Waldorf, even those inspired like Reggio Emilia or Charlotte Mason or any of the homeschooling curriculums. And then it ended up being that, I liked some of what they were doing, but then the cost factor also.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to be a teacher myself, didn't want to be a teacher in the current system. So I thought, okay, I'll just give up on that. But then as it turned out, if I could work with my children,
Yeah.
teach, work with friends' children's, teach in a way that wasn't um, top down, but because I enjoy the learning process myself,
Yeah.
then it seemed like the obvious thing to do to enjoy.
Okay.
And I think it's more dynamic. I think the world is going to be different from the way it was for us.
Yeah.
And even the schooling that I had, I found to be of limited use in terms of what I've done for income to support myself. So I just thought, might as well give them every opportunity to be exposed to a number of different things, learn to solve problems that they face, not theoretical only.
Okay.
You know.
What is it that you do, I guess, or what is it like? What's your profession in order to be able to maintain?
Well, I've done lots of different things. I've worked in the service industry,
Mm-hmm.
but I've also done graphic design, writing, editing. The last job that I held that was sort of a full-time with benefits kind of thing. I was an assistant scientific editor at MD Anderson.
Okay.
So we were reviewing and editing scientific manuscripts destined for publication or grants, um, for research and stuff like that, for content flow, language as well, but also for logical content and
Okay.
completeness.
Okay. Cool. I guess, do you think that she would miss out on any experience or social things that most students experience being unschooled?
Um,
Because,
well, I mean, there's sort of a gimme answer to that, which is that every child is missing out on the experiences of every other child
yeah,
because they're not those children. So yeah, they're going to miss out on some things that are good. They're also going to miss out on things that I think could be possibly traumatic or neutral. Um, but I decided that what they could potentially get by not being in schools, at least to start, was well worth that. Because what I remember a lot of in traditional schools is sort of dead time.
yeah, there's but like, how about the social aspect of it? Because they're not in that school environment where they see, you know, let's say that like in my high school, we had my graduating class was 500, and there was four graduating class. We had about 2,000 people, and I could talk to as many of those people,
Mm-hmm.
at any time.
Right.
What do you think? Do you think there's that social aspect missing for being unschooled, or
Well, there's
not having that interaction with people consistently?
well, in the sense that a school is usually highly sorted by age. So within your high school, these 2,000, you said 2,000?
Yeah.
5,000, 2,000,
Super.
500 to 500 per class, 2,000 total?
Yeah, about
Right.
that. Yeah.
We're all within 5 years of each other's age.
Yeah.
That's, to me, only real in a school system. So, in the quote unquote real world, outside of a school bubble, you're actually interacting with a greater range of people. So
Yeah.
in their daily lives, I think unschooled children who happen to be out and about in whatever they're doing will have lots of interaction with a variety of ages of people, which to me is more realistic, more reflective of what will happen after schooling. And then for those children who do enjoy being at home more or who don't enjoy mingling in crowds, it allows them, I think, the ability to focus on what they like instead of being forced into overly social situations that might cause them stress and interfere with their learning. So for us, I mean, my children enjoy social interactions.
Yeah.
So we make sure to hang out with the neighbors, go to play dates. I mean, we have groups where we're calling up, hey, today I'm doing this. Anyone want to come? And whoever comes, comes, and whoever doesn't. And so in that sense, we are allowing the children to be exposed to each other and have their conflicts, resolve them by themselves, work it out, I mean, that's what I think is valuable in school. You see the same people day in, day out, every day.
Yeah.
And you got to work it out. You may not like them all.
Yeah.
But you may like some, but you get exposed to a lot of different ones. And so that's kind of what some of us do when we form networks of parents with children and we bring them all together and see, hey, did I like the time as an adult? Cool. Did my children? Okay, we compromise as a family. We go do things to be around other people.
Okay. I mean, even in a job sense, you could be working with somebody that you not necessarily like, but they're good at what they do.
You got to work it out.
Yeah. Okay. I guess this question isn't as applicable, but would you ever try public schooling, or would you ever have your kids try public schooling?
Yeah. Once if they ask for it, if they're at a point where, maybe not in the same words that I would use, able to determine what someone's motivation might be in saying something. If they're able to determine what's a commercial message versus a personal one. If they're able to, if their backbone's sort of formed enough that they can, even if they want to go along with something that's peer pressure, at least they know what's going on. When they're aware of things like that and they can report things that are anomalous or dangerous, if they could get from wherever they are in the city back home on their own without calling anyone, then I would say, yeah, go ahead. If you want to go to school, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
But, I went to public school.
Yeah.
I'm alive, which is not true for everyone who goes to public school.
There are a few instances, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's, the older they are, the more I want them to be able to be independent. But the way our culture is now, it's so permeated by really subtle messages that are, I think, harmful to self-identity. They're sexist, they're racist, they're they're bigoted in lots of, they're homophobic without even realizing it.
Yeah.
They enable rape culture. And when children are really tiny, it's like packing their bags to have to rework all these things out. But if they go into a public school environment, knowing that, for example, it is not the victim's fault if a victim gets raped, that it's the raper's fault.
Yeah.
Then they're in a position not only to not enable others and keep that going, but to support other people who might need that help.
Yeah.
Who don't have that, who are sort of drained already emotionally.
Okay. Did your parents' background at all have background in education have a play in unschooling your children or, deciding to unschool that?
I don't think so.
I mean, what is it that your parents, I guess they went through traditional schooling or?
Yeah, they did. Sarah, I'm going to switch sides for you. Just wait a second. She gets some social interaction. She walks up to strangers and says, hi, and they all smile back. No, they both went to traditional schooling. My father and stepfather both completed medical school and residencies. My mother was a nurse. She ran cancer centers, lots of degrees, this kind of thing.
So that never changed your perception of traditional schooling, like how your parents turned out? Or is it just because the way the traditional school was that you decided it's just not the thing for your children?
Well, I think it's not so much just the classroom environment. Like, it definitely wasn't a decision that is a lifetime decision.
Yeah.
I mean, every month we can think about whether we want to do something different.
Yeah.
But, and just because if I put them in school doesn't mean they can't come back out. And just because I don't have them in doesn't mean I can't put them in 1 year. But, no, I mean, it actually took me a while before I gained the confidence in even my abilities to facilitate learning, um, that I thought that they weren't losing something by not being in the traditional system. I mean, it's sort of a fear thing that I often hear, that if they're not in what most people are in, then what if they can't catch up? What if they get deprived because they didn't have the baseline? And I think that if sort of the life perspective becomes one where you're not trying to win over everybody, then that success doesn't become scarce. And it's pretty easy for those with privilege like me. You know, I have food to eat. I have reasonable expectations to be physically safe day in, day out. Water, you know, shelter, clothes, food. So, I mean, I have every expectation that I can solve a problem and get what I need out of my community.
Yeah.
And not everybody has that. So, you know, yeah, it's in school, out of school, it was going to happen. I mean, I thought that if I ever put my kids in school before I had children, that I would make up for it at home.
Oh.
You know, like
Okay.
I'd put them in school. That would be how they learned that life sucks and it's tough and, you know, you gotta suck it up, whatever the adults tell you, and just deal.
Yeah.
And, you know, how you defend yourself against bullies and, you know, figure out your identity despite everything. And then I thought, well, if I know my kids are going to suffer, why would I put them through it? And then a couple of us had talked for a while about analogies for this, and we thought, okay, so it's a very useful skill to learn how to change a tire that's flat.
Yeah.
Right. You can, does it matter if you have the knowledge in the end, whether you learned it in your driveway or on the side of 59 with traffic zooming by in the rain, you know? Like,
You still knew
you
it.
still have the knowledge.
But just the way you acquired it.
Yeah. So, like, as a parent, I mean, sure, there are things you can learn through difficult circumstances that you can't learn otherwise. But do I think life is perfect enough that even if I'm homeschooling them whatever format, they won't have some difficulty or trauma or emotion? No, of course they're going to suffer some. But if I put them in school where I don't know what's going on when they're very young, this age.
Yeah.
And I mean, they control when kids go to the bathroom. They tear gas kids in school. That was the police. Children without weapons were tear gassed. I mean pepper sprayed. Excuse me. You know, grade school and the standardized testing. I just think there's so much that they can enjoy about life if they're not having to be put through standardized testing.
Yeah.
And also, too, it was logistical. I don't want to get up and have a morning routine where we rush. So me personally, this was an easier decision for me. So there's lots of things that went into play. You know, I don't want them to have to carry textbooks and all this. I mean, I enjoy going out and exploring. And if I can take them with me, then they get to see that too. Awesome. If we're not in school, we can take vacations when it's off season and just for weeks and weeks, and I don't have to worry about them getting in trouble, being caught up, to worry about the politics of PTAs and all this kind of thing. I don't know. Hi. You know, my oldest one, she's enrolled in classes, so if there's specialized knowledge, I mean, like she wants to dance, so I'm going to dance class.
How old is she?
She's 4.
4? Okay.
You're a baby? You're still a baby. You're a baby.
What, I guess on your 4-year-old, like, what does she do every day? Like, what's her normal life? Like, what does she like to do?
We wake up, we eat, sometimes she'll ask for a particular show, so she can watch that show. So she sits down and we do whatever materials we have around. Hey, can you do that, please? Let's keep that upright. She'll draw, cut, glue, whatever. Sometimes we have a particular project, like if we watched a show and they do something, or we read a book and there's something in the book that's interesting, like I have an idea and wouldn't it be fun to do this? Oh yeah, that sounds good. And then she'll add to the project, and we could do that, and we could do that. Okay, that sounds like something we can do tomorrow, or let's check if we have the materials, and we'll go in our big junk pile and see what we have, if we can do it. And that might be the thing we do the next day, or right that moment, or whatever. Sometimes we'll have a play date scheduled, so we'll pack up our stuff and go meet the friends, and sometimes we'll like have brought just materials for the kids to explore. I mean, at this age, it's fundamental play is the best way they learn. When they get older, then I would personally like to engage in academic inquiry with them, but now's not the time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, while they're little, it's play, and we just try and expose them to different environments so that they can see what's out there to pick from when they get into the point of more focused inquiries. Right now, it's just sort of, hey, this is the world. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And they start to ask questions, and you can sometimes, I don't want to make it difficult. If I know the answer, sometimes I'll just answer, and sometimes I'll say, I would like for you to figure that out yourself. And,
So, like, what are her interests? Like, what is she as like? Is there anything that she's come up to you and said like, I want to learn this or
dinosaurs, trains, cars, construction, blocks, flowers. Yeah. Oh, we're chanting now. Music, Spanish, dance, capoeira. Although she's not as much into capoeira anymore. Babies. She likes babies. Accessories, fairy tales, books, drawings, forests, bugs, vet, animals, animal rescue, food. She likes to cook.
Does she cook?
She can do some aspects of cooking, but at this point, I'm not letting her at the stove unsupervised kind of thing.
Yeah.
She might mix something and help me pour it in or whatever. Like if I don't think it's too splattery.
Okay.
But she would certainly help with a lot of prep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Not so much the hot stuff.
Have you faced any judgment from anybody about unschooling or about choosing unschooling for your children?
I think mine are young enough that I don't think I've run into it quite as much.
Yeah.
And also we've come into it through, we'd already been associating with a lot of friends who were at least curious or sympathetic or had considered it themselves. I think, I'm sure I've run into a lot of judgment about it, but you have? I'm so sorry to hear that. I think most of the time it's from lack of understanding that it's just it's unique to each family. So if anyone has a bad experience with someone who had been unschooled, that reflects on that person, not on an unschooling cohort. Like there's not a unified unschoolers movement.
Yeah.
We're all sort of like, hey, are you unschoolish? Okay, yeah. It's by definition, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure there are those I've talked to who have experience with unschoolers who felt there were some things that you could be not unschooling enough, or you're not truly an unschooler. And I think that any kind of judgment, whether it's from one side or the other, is maybe not so productive. Like, how useful is that for the community?
Yeah.
If it's not, then hey, let's move on.
Okay. Did
Yeah. You want to get down? You want to go play? Go ahead.
Does religion or culture play any role in your education, or play any role into your decisions?
Mine, I'm sure it does, but it's not that I'm homeschooling in order to give a certain doctrine or whatever. Like, I'm not religious, so sometimes I would find that the text or you want to get on my back again, but I'm sitting down. The information about religions and faiths in school is rather limited, and so I think that even I and our friends could give the children a better exposure to what the different faiths are, to different people all over the world, culture-wise too. I mean, it's very token. Like, I think that even the cultural information that I got in school about non-American cultures, very Disney fine, very like, oh, and people in Mexico eat tortillas, and people in China eat rice, and it's sort of, and I'm sure they do a little better now. Well, I don't know if they do or not. I would assume they do. I would hope they do. You want a phone, right? Is that what you want? So in the sense that I think that I can expose my children to more authentic experiences about the world we live in when they're not eating up 8 to 10 hours a day in school, yeah, it factored into decisions. So,
okay.
And it's also myopic, I think, the way they represent religions. Like, I think there's so much misrepresentation of all the major faiths and many, many minor ones in schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that helps peace at all,
No,
so yeah, I mean that it did factor in the decision, but not like.
I mean, I can attest to that. I myself am Muslim. Some of the things that I hear, I'm just like, really?
Yeah, it's not true.
Yeah.
Why is it not working? I don't know. Sorry. What else can you do? What else can you find to do? Yeah, it's a touch screen and it's not working. I just put this down. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, that's all the questions I have.
Okay.
I mean, what? I guess how'd you find out about it? How'd you find out about unschooling?
Oh, let me think.
Because I didn't even ever hear about it until 3 weeks ago.
Sure. Well, I mean, in the sense that unschooling is sort of a buzzword, like, it would be easy to understand why some of us didn't hear about it because it's not very mainstream. Although there have been a couple of those mainstream news media outlets that have covered it as sort of like, hey, did you know? You're not a freak. These people are freaks, kind of thing. But I mean, people were learning this way before the Industrial Revolution. It would have been learning through real life experiences based on what the student was interested in doing. If you were an apprentice, you would have pursued that because you wanted to be, or because other family circumstances pushed. And it's not like unschoolers aren't pushed. I'm sure it happens. In the particular group we're in, I think we're making a very concerted effort to not push our dreams onto our children, but that's us uniquely. I think some people do it because they like the choices they would make better than the choices the school would make for their children.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, again, it's like everybody would be doing something slightly different for different reasons. Yeah, I mean, they would be learning what was around them. Yeah. I got you. You gonna get up? Right. If they needed to, they would have found a tutor. They wouldn't have been in a classroom. So, yeah. Did you want to talk to the 4-year-old at all?
Oh, sure.
He's talking. Hey, Norbs. Would you come up for a second? You gonna be on the camera? You're swimming. What do you have? Oh, okay. On the computer screen?
That's you.
You gonna come around here? Oh no! Well, that's a good time to come in then. I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm gonna cook some spaghetti.
But Daddy's going to get me a snack while you cook.
That's a good idea. Right, and I also don't have to pack lunches.
Yeah.
And I have to worry whether they're eaten or not eaten. And
It's
kind of simpler. I have to do uniforms.
Uniforms was never fun.
Yeah. And some people like them because they don't have to think. But, yeah, you want to wash hands too? Yeah.
That's it. Appreciate the